G'day everyone, welcome to this instalment of 4x4 Australia's How to Off-Road Driving, and today we're going to talk about tyre pressures. If you're not adjusting your tyre pressures as you drive on different surfaces, you're not doing the right thing by you, your family and your vehicle. Let me explain. When you're driving on road, you're probably running about 35 psi or thereabouts, but if you go on harsh gravel roads or rough gravel roads with those sorts of road pressures, the ride is going to be unbearable. And not only that, you can cause damage to the tyre, and also the ride quality of your vehicle will be awful and your family won't like you for it. So, how do you know what is the right tyre pressure for different surfaces? A lot of tyre manufacturers and distributors will never tell you to put your tyre pressures below what's on the placard of your vehicle, but that's not going to work when you're out in the bush. When you get onto gravel roads, I'd recommend, if you're running 35 on the road, that you think about dropping your pressures down to anywhere around 26 psi. But having said that, that's if you're running light truck construction tyres with a tougher sidewall, a tougher tread pattern, not a passenger car construction tyre like these things on this vehicle at the moment. But if you're going to upgrade your tyres to all terrains or mud terrains, make sure you get a light truck construction tyre for dirt road or off-road driving. The advantage of lowering your tyre pressures not only gives the tyre more compliance, hence improve the ride of the vehicle, but it also lengthens the footprint of the tyre. So if you're driving on slippery gravel roads, it gives you more purchase and more traction. If the tyre is able to conform to the road surface, it'll mould itself over those sharp edges and you won't have any damage to the tyre. More traction means you'll have better handling, better braking, and that's very important, especially if you're driving and there's wildlife about and you need to make a sudden stop. If you hit a big edge or something like that at full road pressures and you're driving on the dirt, it can delaminate the tyre, and that can end up with a catastrophic failure of that tyre. So the other thing I want to talk about with pressures is driving on different off-road terrains. Sand, mud, rocks, all that sort of stuff. So we'll start with sand because that's the obvious one. You'll want to lengthen that footprint, that tyre's tread footprint when you're on the sand, so that it floats over the surface of the sand and doesn't dig in. The best way to do that is to lower the pressures, and don't be afraid to go down to as low as 16 psi, even a little bit lower, and that will give you a lot more traction on sand. Likewise, if you're driving in muddy terrain, you want to lower your tyre pressures. It's a little bit like driving on sand. It's a very soft and slippery surface. And what about rocky terrain? Well, again, you want to lower your pressures. Maybe go down to about 22 psi or something like that. Again, it allows the tyre to mould itself over the rough terrain. It not only gives you more purchase on that terrain, but also will help prevent tyre damage. These tyre pressure guides that I've given you are exactly that. They're just a guide. Sand in one part of Australia might be a lot harder than sand in another part. There's all sorts of different kinds of rock. There's sandstone, there's shale, there's limestone. There's all sorts of gravel roads too. There's corrugated outback gravel roads, there's sandy gravel roads. Your tyre pressures are something that you're going to have to adjust as you go along, and you will figure it out when you feel the ride quality in your vehicle improve as you adjust your tyre pressures. So there's a fair bit of equipment you're going to need to be able to do all this tyre pressure adjusting. Obviously, a quality air pressure gauge or tyre pressure gauge is the first one. There's analog and digital, as long as it's a quality unit. And it's not a bad idea to have a backup one that you can check it with too, because these gauges do go out of adjustment from time to time. You're also going to need a tyre deflator. There's all sorts of different kinds of deflators on the market. Everything from a stick that you find on the ground or the end of your car key or something like that, or a dedicated tyre pressure deflator that will make it a lot quicker. And when you've got 4 tyres, you don't want to be messing around with sticks and stuff like that. You want to get the job done as quickly as possible. The easier it is, the more likely you are to adjust your tyre pressures on a regular basis. It's good for you, it's good for your family, it's good for your vehicle. Obviously, the other thing you're going to need once you get off a gravel road like this and back onto the blacktop is a quality air compressor. Whether it's something installed under the bonnet or in your vehicle somewhere, or a portable compressor, or both, because it's always good to have a backup, make sure you have a quality air compressor. Now, tyre pressure monitoring systems, or TPMS, is something else I want to touch on. There's various different systems. They work, either have a sensor in the tyre or on the valve stem, and they will display inside your vehicle what pressures your tyres are running and what temperatures at any one time. If one tyre suddenly starts to deflate or starts to get hot, it's probably got a leak and it's going to fail. A tyre pressure monitoring system starts at a couple of $100 and goes north from there. A good quality mud terrain or all terrain, you're looking at 350, 450 bucks. So if you save one tyre, that's worth the cost of a TPMS. There are various TPMS systems on the market, from quite cheap ones that just plug into your cigarette lighter and will display the 4 pressures and have a little alarm if pressures drop, all the way through to, say, the ones that work with an ARB link system, which shows up on an actual digital screen inside your vehicle. Some of the features of a good quality TPMS system not only show you tyre temperatures and tyre pressures, but also allow you to set different parameters for different driving terrains like we were talking about. So the alarm won't go off when you lower your pressures for beach driving, because you can hit beach mode. And if you're towing a trailer, you'll want a TPMS that works on more than 4 wheels. There's various ones on the market that'll do 8 up to 22 wheels, because trucks use them as well. If you get a leak, you're going to need a tyre repair kit. And we're going to look at tyre repair kits in another episode of the 4x4 Australia How to Off-Road Driving series. But make sure you carry a quality tyre repair kit. And just while we're talking about tyres, let's talk about the condition of your tyres before you go on a trip. Have a good look at them, look at the tread area, feel around the inside of the sidewall, look at the outside of the sidewall, make sure there's no chips and damage like that. And whatever you do, don't forget about your spare. On a lot of four-wheel drives, that's located up under the vehicle. If you're driving over off-road terrain and you drop off a rock shelf, your spare tyre can actually hit the ground and be damaged when it's not even running on the vehicle. One other thing we must talk about with tyre pressures, once you've lowered them, you're gonna have to adjust the way you drive your vehicle. If you're down at 16 PSI in the sand, you don't want to be hooking into corners and making sudden moves, or you could peel an actual tyre off the rim. Likewise, if you're driving on dirt roads and you've dropped your pressures down to 24, 25 PSI, you don't want to be barreling along at 120 clicks. You're going to overheat the tyre and it's going to damage it. So keep your speed down to a sensible pace. And once you get back onto the blacktop, if you haven't re-inflated your pressures because you've got more dirt coming up, make sure you keep your pace down. So tyres are one of the most important consumables on your four-wheel drive, and they're very expensive. Multiply that by 5, say you got up, $400 a tyre times 5, there's 2,000 bucks. So you want to look after these things. So you don't want to skimp on an air compressor or a tyre pressure monitoring system or a deflator or anything like that. When it comes to tyres, the most important aspect of your four-wheel drive, make sure you buy quality gear. So that's it for our top tips on tyre pressures. Make sure you keep an eye out for the next episode in 4x4 Australia's How to Off-Road Driving series.